Good morning, everyone. Today, we will be talking one of the most important communication skills we use every day. So our topic for today is about receptive macroskills, which is the listening. But before that, let's have first our learning objectives. So at the end of our lesson, students should be able to A. Identify and explain the different listening types, processes, and strategies. B. Show appreciation for effective listening by demonstrating attentiveness and respect during discussion. And lastly, C. Apply listening techniques by participating in an activity requires note-taking, responding, and giving feedback. So I hope that we will be able to achieve our learning objective by the end of our discussion. To start with, we have here the nature of listening. So what is listening? Listening is called a receptive skills because it involves taking in information instead of speaking or writing. The listener's job is to receive the message, understand, and think about what it means. The listener absorbs the words, tone, and meaning delivered by the speaker. In short, receiving language happens first before we respond to it. Also, it is a process of interpreting messages, interpreting what is said. This means that listening is more than just hearing sound. It is a process where the listener pays attention, understands the words, interpret the message, and figures out the speaker's meaning. To interpret means to make sense of what is being said. Lastly, it is produce messages or text involves putting them into form using individual sounds, syllables, words, phrases, clauses, sentences, and longer stitches of a text. This means that when we speak or write, we don't just release random sounds. We carefully combine sounds and syllables to form a words. These words then connect to create phrases and sentences to express our ideas. In short, producing a message requires organizing language in a meaningful and understandable way so that the listener or the reader can clearly receive the message. So, this means that the listening is very important to us since it is our way to communicate and listens on the informations, and also it is a way to improve our listening comprehensions.
So now let's proceed to the purpose of listening under the interactional purposes. So number one is the focus on harmonious communication in social context. So interactional listening is mainly about building and maintaining a positive social relationship. The goal is not to gather detailed information but to create a pleasant, comfortable interaction. In this type of listening, people pay attention to tone, emotion, and friendliness rather than the content itself. So the listener often show empathy, give supportive responses, and maintain the flow of conversation to strengthen social bond. For example, at a family dinner, you might choose to listen to a relative tell a story you already know, not because the information is new, but because the act of listening itself matters. Paying attention shows respect, affection, and interest to the person. It helps maintain relationship, reinforces the family bonds, and signals that you value their presence and experiences. So in this situation, the purpose of listening isn't about gaining new knowledge. It is about expressing care and keeping the connection strong. So the number two is the interactional uses of language typically include greetings and small talks that centers on non-controversial topics that elicit agreements among the participants. So when we say non-controversial topics, it talks about the hobbies, the weekend plans, and or shared activities in a light, agreeable way. In interactional listening, conversation revolve around safe and easy topics that everyone can agree on. The aim is not to debate or challenge idea but to establish rapport. These conversations are short, polite, and predictable. For example is greetings, comment about the weather, or sharing experiences. They help create a comfortable social atmosphere and signal friendliness. For example, when somebody greets you like, "Hi, how are you?" And then you respond, "I'm good, thanks. And you?" So this kind of greetings or small talks help create a comfortable social atmosphere and signal friendliness that can make to strengthen the bond. The last one is the interactional uses of language do not require careful attention to details and facts. Because interactional listening, the main purpose of interactional listening is to create positive interaction, not sharing critical information. Listeners don't need to remember specific details or facts. The accuracy of information is less important than showing interest, politeness, and empathy. So the listener may focus more on tone of voice, facial expression, or emotional cues rather than the exact content. For example, a friend talks about their day and you don't need to remember the exact time or order of events. You just respond supportively. What matters is that you listen with interest, show empathy, and respond in a way that makes your friend feel heard and understood. The focus is on relationship, not the information. So in conclusion, interactional listening is important because it focuses on connecting with others, not just exchanging information. By listening with empathy and attention, we build trust, strengthen relationship, and create smoother, more meaningful conversation. That would be my part, and that's all. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. Now I am going to discuss you about transactional purposes. Transactional language is all about getting a message across clearly and effectively. Think of it as the language you use when the main goal is to exchange information. Here's the breakdown. Focus on conveying information. The most important thing is that the listener understands the message. Message-oriented. The way you speak or write is shaped by the message you're trying to send. Here are some examples of transactional language. The first one is listening to lecture. You're listening to learn something, so the lecturer needs to be clear and organized. The second one is taking notes. You're writing down key information to remember it later. The third one is dictation and close exercises. These activities help you practice understanding details and specific information. Here are some key features. The first one is explicit. Nothing is hidden, the meaning is direct. The second one is clear. Easy to understand with good pronunciation and grammar. Number 3 is coherent. Ideas are logical and flow well together. And in short, transactional language is practical and focused on making sure the message is received loud and clear.
And now let us proceed to the listening comprehension. So the listening comprehension isn't just about hearing sounds. It is about receiving a message, understanding it, and responding to it correctly. It also includes paying attention not only to words but also to nonverbal cues such as facial expressions, gestures, and tone of voice. Listening is an active skill, meaning you must focus and participate mentally in the process. There are 3 types of listening. Number 1, we have the active listening. This happens when we give our full attention to the speaker. We understand the message clearly, interact when needed, and give proper feedback. This type of listening also shows respect and improves communication. Number 2 is the selective listening. This happens when we only hear the parts that we like or find interesting. Because of this, we missed important informations. This usually happens when we are not interested in the topic. And number 3 is the ignoring listening. This happens when we do not listen at all. We block the message completely. This often leads to misunderstanding and damaged relationship because the speakers feels unheard.
Hello everyone, so now let's proceed to the stages of listening process. So when someone talks to you, it's not just about hearing the words, it's a whole process. So experts say there are 6 main stages. So we have hearing, focusing on message, interpreting, analyzing and evaluating, responding, and lastly, remembering. So now let's first talk about hearing. So this is the first step. Your ears pick up the sound. So it's like when you hear a noise outside your window, but hearing alone doesn't mean you're really listening yet. Next, focusing on the message. Now you pay attention. You tune in to what the person is saying, blocking out other stuff like background noise or your own thoughts. So it's like you're turning up the volume on the radio to catch the song. So that's it. Next, we have interpreting. Here, you figure out what the words mean. So you use your brain to understand the language, tone, and maybe even body language. So for example, if someone says, "I'm fine," but with a sad face, so you know they might not be okay. So that's it. Next, we have analyzing and evaluating. So this is where you think deeper. So you check if the info makes sense, if it's true, and what it means for you. Like, is this advice good or bad? So you judge it based on facts or your own knowledge. Next, we have responding. Time to react. So you might nod, ask a question, or say something back. It's how you show you're engaged, like replying to a text message. And we have remembering, the last one. So you store it in your brain for later. Good listeners remember key points so they can use them tomorrow or share with others. So that's the 6 stages of listening process. Alright, so now let's move on to the fallacies about listening. So these are ideas people often believe, but there's not always right. First, let's have listening is not my problem. So that's wrong. Everyone has room to improve listening. It's a skill we all need, like driving or cooking. So if you think it's not your issue, you might miss important stuff in talks or meetings. Next, we have listening and hearing are the same. Nope. Hearing is just your ears picking up sounds like a radio playing, while listening is paying attention, understanding, and thinking about it. You can hear without really listening. Next, we have smarter people are better listeners. So that's true. Being smart helps with some things, but listening is a separate skill. Even clever folks can be bad listeners if they don't practice focus on and patience. And the last we have good readers are good listeners. Sorry, but no. Reading books is about words on a page, while listening involves voices, tones, and body language. So a great reader might still struggles with spoken words. Last one is listening improves with age and experience. So partly right, but not automatic. So older people might have more practice, but everyone can get better at any age with effort. So it's like exercise, you have to work at it. So now, So listening is a learnable skill, not something you're born with or that just happens. That's it. So that's the fallacies about listening.
Importance of effective listening. Effective listening is crucial for successful communication and learning. It includes the following. First, to avoid communication errors. This ensuring the message is understood as intended. Next is helps to learn something new. Remaining open to new information and perspective. Next is we display respect to others' viewpoint, valuing speaker and their perspective. Last is it is directly proportional to learning. The better you listen, the more knowledge and information you absorb. Now let's move on to barriers to effective listening. These are the obstacles that prevent a listener to fully comprehend a message. For example, we have the physical barrier. These are the external factors from the environment that disrupt the communication flow. First, we have the noise. Like example, loud traffic or people talking nearby. Next is the defected mechanical device. It is the equipment failures that interface with the message. For example, a blurry or constantly cutting out video call. Next, we have the uncomfortable environment. It is the physical discomfort that distracts the listener. Now, let's move on to the second barrier, which is the psychological barrier. These are the internal factors related to the listener's body or state of mind. First, we have the state of health. These are the physical elements that reduce concentration, like headache. The next is the disability, a hearing impairment. Example is a person with hearing disability. Then lastly is the wandering attention. This is the mind drifting away from the message. For example, a person talking but your mind is preoccupied.
Now let us know how to listen effectively. To become a better listener, we must stop talking and let the speaker express ideas. Number 2, be silent and give them time to speak. Number 3, empathize or try to understand their feelings. Number 4, ask questions to clarify. Number 5, maintain eye contact for connection. Number 6, show interest through nodding or reactions. Number 7, observe nonverbal cues like tone or gestures. And number 8, make the speaker comfortable so they can open up easily. These steps helps build better connection and relationship towards the audience and the speaker.
Now let's discuss the sub-skills in listening. Listening sub-skills are specific abilities that combine to enable effective understanding of spoken information. Listening involves more than just hearing sounds. It includes a range of skills that facilitates comprehension. Number 1, we have listening for guests, or the main idea. The listening for guests involves grasping the overall essence or central theme of a spoken message without focusing on very single detail. So it's about getting the big picture. So how to develop? Practice summarizing short talks or conversations. Focus on identifying the speaker's primary purpose or message. Ask yourself, what is the speaker mainly trying to communicate? So example, imagine you're listening to a news report about a new environmental policy. Listening for guests means understanding that the report is about new rules to protect the environment, even if you don't catch all the specific about the regulations. Number 2, listening for specific details. This sub-skills requires focusing on particular pieces of information within a spoken text. So it involves
pinpointing precise details such as names, dates, times, location, statistics, or specific instructions. For example, in a weather forecast, listening for specific details means noting the exact temperature, the time when the rain is expected, or the specific areas that will be affected by a storm. Number 3, inferring meaning or reading between the lines. So inferring meaning goes beyond the explicitly stated words to understand the speaker's implied attitudes or emotions. It involves using contextual clues, tone of voice, and background knowledge. Read between the lines. So how to develop? Pay attention to the speaker's tone, body language, if visible, and the context of the conversation. Ask yourself, what is the speaker suggesting or implying? And how do they feel about this topic? For example, if someone says, "That's a very interesting idea," with a sarcastic tone, inferring meaning helps you understand they might actually think the idea is not very good. And the next is number 4, recognizing discourse patterns, understanding structure. So recognizing discourse patterns involves identifying the organizational structure of a spoken message. So this includes understanding how the speaker arranges their ideas, such as identifying cause and effect relationships, problem-solution structures, compare and contrast patterns, or sequential steps in a process. For example, when listening to a presentation, recognizing a discourse pattern might involve noticing that the speaker first presents a problem, then discuss several solutions, and finally recommends one particular solution as most effective. So that and my part, and Miss Lagsana will continue the discussion.
Active listening, focusing undivided attention, providing feedback and responding appropriately. This explains the fully concentrating on the speaker and confirming understanding through verbal like paraphrasing and non-verbal like eye contact, nodding feedback. 6. Critical listening, evaluating the message logic credibility and validity to identify faults or error. Listening to evaluate and judge the message logic and evidence and credibility to determine its truth or merit. Discriminative listening, differentiating between sounds and words to understand the message accurately. This explains the foundation skills of distinguishing and recognizing substyle differences and auditory cues like sound, accent, and tone to grasp the literal message. Number 8, empathic listening, trying to understand the message from the speaker and emotional and psychological perspective. This explained listening to understand and validate the speaker's emotional states, perspective, and underlying feelings without offering judgment or immediate advice. Number 9, comprehensive listening, understanding the message often in situations like lectures. This explained listening with the goal of interpreting and retaining the entire information's content, such as facts, instructions, or step and process. The example of this is following a detailed recipe on a podcast, focusing on the order and exact measurements of the ingredients.
So guys, and number 10 is predicting. is anticipating what will be said before and during the listening process. And number 11 is note-taking, recording key information while listening to aid comprehension and memory. And number 12 is listening selectively. It is focusing on only specific parts of an audio or message. And number 13 is recognizing phonological features or identifying the sound system of a language.
So let's now delve into the listening techniques and strategies. So we all know that listening is a very important skills in terms of understanding and communicating effectively. So here are some tips and techniques to help you improve your listening skills. So the first one is active listening. So when we say active listening, you are really paying attention to the one that is talking. Like you should not think about anything else, but you should focus on what or she or discuss, so that it is easily for you to observe what is being discussed. The second one is look at the speaker. So when you're looking at the speaker, it shows that you are really paying attention of the things that she or he is going to say. The third one is understanding the message. So of course, you should not solely focus on listening itself, but also you should also understand the message that is being discussed, so that it is easy for you to masabot ng topic. The second one is note-taking. So it means that writing down all the important ideas or details. So the first one is only write the most important information. It's because if you're going to write all the information, it will only confuse you. And then the second one is do not write every word. You don't need to copy everything, just the main points. And the third one is use simple symbols, like use short forms or signs to help you faster, like and or arrow, so that it will not make your writings long bitaw. The third one is asking questions. So when you're asking question, it helps you clarify your doubts, and also for those reporters or for those who discuss, they will think that you are really interested listening to their topic. So the first one is ask when you don't understand. So of course, if you really don't know everything, don't pretend. It's because you are the one who benefits if you are asking. Then the second one is shows interest. So of course, if you are asking some questions, it shows that you are really interested to their topic or to the lesson that is being discussed. The third one is ask open-ended questions. So when you say ask open-ended questions, you should not ang tubag is yes or no, kundi dapat mangutana ka like taas nga tubag, so that it will help you to really understand the topic. Kay kung yes or no ramang good lisod ka siya sabton nya, dili pa gid ma-elaborate more ang ilang topic. The fourth one is paraphrasing. So when we say paraphrasing, it is repeating what the speaker said in your own words. So this helps you check if you understand correctly and shows that you are listening. So it's a good way to ensure that you are on the same page as the speaker. So with this, you should say the idea again but in a different way, and also check understanding. So when you're checking understanding, or you check your understanding, this helps you know if you really understood it correctly. And lastly, shows you are listening. So the speaker shows you are paying attention because you repeat the message. So the purpose of paraphrasing is that to check understanding and show that you are listening.
And now, let's proceed to our fifth listening techniques and strategies. We have here removing distractions. And removing distractions, we have two important things here. First, choose a quiet place if possible. When we listen, we should avoid using our phones because they take our attention away. It also helps to choose a quiet place so we can hear clearly. Our next important things here we have stay away from things that can take your attention. We must stay away from things like TV, loud music, or other people talking. And next, let's proceed to our 6 listening techniques and strategies. We have here predicting. Predicting means trying to guess what the speaker will say next. And we have 2 another important things here. First, we have try to guess what the speaker will say next based on context. Next is we have this keeps your brain active and help you understand better. When we use the words and ideas, we already hear to make a good guess. And this also keeps our brain active and help us understand the message more easily. And for the 7 listening techniques and strategies, we have here listening for main ideas. And we have 3 important things here in listening for main ideas. We have here focus on the central message, not every details. Second, identify the topic and the speaker's main point. Lastly, we have this help you follow long discussions easily. When we listen, we should focus on the main message, not every little detail. We need to identify the topic and the speaker's main point. Lastly, we need to know the main idea, and it becomes easier for us to follow long discussions or explanations.
Good day everyone, my name is Mark Boyet Cadarao, and now let's proceed to the remaining techniques and strategies for listening. So the 8th technique and strategy is listening for details. Listening for details means focusing your attention on a specific pieces of information such as dates, names, places, or important terms or steps in a process. This skill is especially useful when you are listening to instructions, lessons, or explanation where accuracy is important. By carefully identifying these key details, you can follow directions correctly or understand lesson points better and avoid misunderstanding. And the next one is emotional awareness. Emotional awareness involves listening not only to the speaker's words but also to the tone of their voice and their pace of their speech and their facial expressions if visible. This helps you understand how the speaker feels, whether they are sad, excited, frustrated, confused, or worried. Being emotionally aware allows you to respond more sensitively and appropriately, making communication more meaningful and empathetic. And the last strategy is practice. Practice is essential for improving listening skills. The more you expose yourself to different forms of communication such as podcasts, interviews, videos, or real life communication, the better your listenings develop. Regular practice helps you stay focused for longer periods. It helps you understand various accent or speaking styles and pick up details more easily. Listening is a skill grows stronger the more consistently you work on it. So in short, the more you practice, the more your develop or the more your skills grow. And that is the technique and strategies for listening. And for the remaining part of this topic will be discussed by my co-members.
So I'll be tackling the bottom-up approach and the top-down approach. So first, bottom-up approach focuses on the individual component of the message. And also, bottom-up approach is a strategy of listening. Listener builds a meaning from the smallest unit of language, phonemes and words, to largest units, phrases and sentences. Like for example, when listening to a lecture, a student using a bottom-up approach might focus on identifying specific keywords, understanding grammar rules, and recognizing a vocabulary. So let's move on to our second approach, which is the top-down approach. So top-down approach is a way people understand messages by relying on what they already know. And this top-down approach is a opposite of bottom-up approach because top-down approach uses prior knowledge and context. And also, it starts with a big unit to a narrows down. So, from big unit to a smallest unit. So, the example of top-down approach is when listening to a news report about a familiar topic, a listener using a top-down approach might predict the content and focus on confirming their explanation.
Okay, now we're done with the first two listening approach, which is the bottom up and the top down listening approach. Now, let's move on to the third one, which is the interactive listening. Okay, now interactive listening, this refers to listeners can use both their linguistic knowledge and their prior knowledge or context to simultaneously construct a meaning. Now, in a conversation, listeners can use both their bottom-up processing to recognize words and phrases, and then their top-down processing to understand the speaker's tone, context, and the intended meaning. For instance, a listener or a student listens to her classmates' presentation about their favorite hobby, and then as they listen, they shows noting, and then take notes, and then later on ask questions that shows interest about their hobby, and then encouragement to their classmates to elaborate. And then this approach combines the bottom-up approach, which is the use of words and phrases, and then the top-down approach, their prior knowledge and context, and then the interactive skills, which refers to the noting, take notes, and then asking questions. Now, this helps learners to engage with the speaker and then build communication skills.